What it do, everybody? It's your boy King Crowder. Checking back in again with another edition of History You May Not Know and History That You Should Know That's Went On in America. This is the story. Today's lesson, we will go right on to the east of us, to Opelousas, Louisiana. Opelousas, Louisiana is a small town that was coming from Black Americans being in freedom, post-emancipation and Civil War. Blacks left the plantation, pursued their own town, and became self-sufficient. Self-sufficient because they can craftsmen, take care of themselves, and do everything on their own. This issue was the first time in the state of Louisiana we saw white uprising in attempt to infringe on the rights of Black Americans and extreme voter suppression. This story took place in Opelousas, Louisiana in 1868, when you saw Southern Democrats. For those who do not know, Democrats of the South during the Jim Crow area were the most racial issues and racism occurred. Blacks at this time leaned heavily into the Republican Party because they aligned with their viewpoints and they were more accepted. That is a flipped ideology we may see in our current time, but back then, 90% of Black families were Republican because they believed in religion. They didn't want such thing as immigration and things coming in. So the ideologies were completely different. This issue arose when the Blacks in this time were definitely flourishing, doing Reconstruction. Reconstruction is one of the time when Black Americans were focused on to improve themselves. And they were really flourishing at this time. They became more politically in line. They had their own jobs. They had their own access to education. And they became more politically active. This activation in these communities started to worry the whites around town because they always saw the Blacks in this town as competition. And they feared these guys overtaking their boundaries and taking over their communities. So what Louisiana did at this time was pass a bogus law saying that they must limit the colored people's access to education, limit what they could do. Mind you, these Black communities built up and sustained their own way of doing things. However, the white communities wanted to take that away from them. Whites in this time had one of the largest pushbacks in this state, and they did not want Blacks to have any equal rights. These Southern Democrats were so starch in their belief, so heavily in what they thought, they disfavored anything that these Black Americans want to do. The Blacks in this town were so strong that the Republicans still won a nomination in local and some state elections. They went past the expectations, exceeded it, and said, we're going to do what we want to do and remain fearless. Over the summers, armies of white people harassed Black families, started disputes, verbal battles, altercations. However, the whites in this area wanted the municipality politically to remain white. So what these guys did was truly horrific and horrible. They loaded up guns and they went into these teachers, to these places where these people were. And they shot men, women, and children at will. They shot them while they were walking. They shot them while they were at town. They shot them all around. It was said that over 100 and some families got killed for no reason, just because they wanted to exercise their rights as Americans. Whites at this time literally was shooting actively for almost 14 days. So they were saying over 300 Blacks were killed in Opelousas, Louisiana. So I want you to think about this for a second. Pretend that you were trying to just gain your right to vote that we normally do. And a group of individuals was so mad that you were exercising this right to vote, they were shooting men, women, and children at will. It was rumored that the whites were similarly so strong that a lot of people had to flee their home and go to a different town. Now, I think of myself having a house fire and being displaced. But being displaced because you feared your life, because someone just wanted to kill you for no immediate reason, is truly remarkable. And it's truly sad to think that this happened in this town that was a thriving community that we see all across America that we don't teach. It is important to go into these lessons and learn how this This happened during Reconstruction. Reconstruction was supposed to be a positive note for blacks who were formerly enslaved to have equal footing in the United States, and they still were denied access in towns like this. Opelousas shooting happened, and no one went to jail for it. No one was charged, and even the blacks that saw spoke to law enforcement were threatened and forced to flee. We see these dark sides in America, and the only assistance that the Opelousas residents had was from the freedmen bureaus. The freedmen bureaus at the time were meant to legally help and educationally assist any blacks, but nobody else wanted to help these victims of this tragic crime that happened during this area. And to this day, you still see those cities very fewly talk about, discuss, or break down what occurred. We see the disenfranchisement, and we see the issues that a lot of these places having. And it's because of the history that we don't talk about or acknowledge our past. This lesson was on voter suppression, racial riots, and unbeknown killings. These all spurred a racial attacks all across America that we must teach in our Louisiana history, our Texas history, our history in general. This history is amazing to learn. It's good to reflect upon, to honestly have a discourse about and talk about. Check it back out again, y'all. Please comment, like, subscribe. The Opelousas Massacre of 1868 is something that we should reflect, because it is something that was powerful, that as Black Americans earned their right to vote, they were still suppressed. It is powerful to know during the Reconstruction era, freedom was not reigning as we were taught. Peace.